I am here now, and that is because, as I said in the beginning, Rachel and Dave Hollis are getting a divorce. I am not judging them for the mere fact of getting a divorce. I don't know what their past nearly 20 years together have been like. I cannot speak to the intricacies of their relationship, and I am not judging them for deciding that their marriage does not work. I am not doing that. There are plenty of reasons to end a marriage, so I am not judging them for that. But over the past few years, Rachel and Dave have made their relationship a massive part of their empire. They have essentially made the relationship part of the identity of Rachel's company, and they have made a massive profit, shilling out marriage advice and pretending to be the best, happiest, most in love, most amazing couple in the entire world, while in my opinion, they never really liked each other. Maybe they have love for each other. I'm sure they do. It takes something to keep a marriage together for as long as they have. Like I said, she was 19 when they met, and she's 37 now. But everything Rachel has told us and everything Dave has told us about their relationship points to the fact that something is off. When they first met, Rachel was a booty call for Dave. Like, straight up, that is what she said in her book. And I'm gonna try not to, get amped, but this is the part that just infuriates me. So I'm gonna try to keep it pretty level, but I might get a little bit hyphy. So just be prepared for that. So by Rachel's own admission, she was a booty call for Dave. He talked down on her when she acted her age of 19 by being jealous. He did not commit to her until she essentially gave him an ultimatum, which he didn't comply to. And then when he realized she was serious, he was like, oh shoot, I love you. Let's be a legit boyfriend and girlfriend, even though I'm 27 and you're 19. And again, we've talked about this before. Age gap relationships are not an inherently bad thing. But when you are talking to a preacher's kid from a small town in California like Rachel Hollis, who is 19, and you are a 27-year-old executive at Disney, you are a full-grown adult with a full-grown career, and Rachel has just dropped out of college because she got her first job in the movie business and she wants to be an actress. The power dynamic is palpable. You are 27. You know what you are doing. You have been an adult. You have been on your own for almost 10 years at that point. She is fresh out of high school. 19, yes, that is an adult, but it's a very different kind of adult than a 27-year-old. 19 and 27, I think it's kind of sketchy. But hey, that's just my opinion. So, they start dating. She is a booty call, yada, yada, yada. There's another story that Dave tells where Rachel came to him and told him about a business deal that she was working on. She was real excited for it. It was going to be real profitable. It was going to be great for her business. And Dave's response is, yeah, well, there's a 3% chance that's going to happen. So not only does he not believe that his wife is capable of making this deal happen, and you know what? I get it. He comes from a business world. Maybe he's like, that kind of deal, it's typically not able to be reached in that way. Like, I don't think you're going to get everything you're asking for. Maybe be prepared to have some wiggle room. I understand him wanting to kind of prepare her for the fact that she might have to make some negotiations, all while still supporting her. You could have said, man, that would be awesome. Hey, in my experience, this is kind of what happens though. So I hope that you get that deal. And I know that you are super motivated and super smart and capable of making this happen. But in my experience, this is kind of what happens. So if it comes back and they're not agreeing to it, don't be discouraged. That's a normal thing. Here's where we can wiggle around. You could support your wife while still having that fear of her being disappointed, or like wanting to prepare her for not getting what she wants because you do have more business experience. But it didn't even seem like that's what he wanted to do. He just said, yeah, 3% chance that's gonna happen. And so months later, the deal went through. Rachel got the deal. Like I said, she is very motivated. She is very smart. Like, I don't think she's a dummy. Rachel gets the deal, gets a gold bracelet with a pendant on it that says 3%. It has 3% engraved into the pendant on the bracelet. I'm trying not to hit the table. And she gives it to Dave to give to her. And that is all I need to know about your marriage, because that is a level of passive aggressiveness that only comes from years of resent. I just, to get it customized with 3%, you know she's sat on that. You know she's sat on what he said for months, thinking, 3%. Okay, 3%. And then when it went through, she couldn't wait to rub it in his face. This is not my ideal version of a marriage. You know, in my head, if I was in like a similar situation and my husband had some doubts about me being able to make something happen, you know, if, like I said, if he approached it in a way of, I think you're smart, I think you're capable, I hope that this succeeds for you, but we might want to prepare to have to like make some negotiations or to settle for something a little bit less, and then I got the deal exactly as I wanted, like, I would go run up to him and be like, this finally went through, this happened. Where are you taking me for an I'm sorry dinner? Where are you taking me for a, ooh, I doubted you dinner? It would be in good fun, because I know my husband and I have the dynamic of believing in each other and wanting to see each other succeed, all while kind of being prepared to come alongside each other if one of us is trying to get something done that maybe is really hard or maybe isn't the most realistic thing. Like, coming beside to be that emotional support to kind of tether you, keep you grounded, but also encourage you as much as we can. That's what I think, you know, obviously I'm going to think that that's a better way to have a marriage because that's the marriage that I have. But I just think objectively, I don't think that is a sign of a healthy, open, honest, loving, fun relationship. That is years of resentment. And finally, here's one of like the biggest signs, in my opinion, that they never really liked each other or that their marriage isn't really or wasn't really that great, is the fact that they saturated their audience with content about how good their marriage was, like they had something to prove. I hate this because I like the idea of married couples being able to be a presence on social media, helping younger couples or helping people who are kind of maybe going through a tough time with their partner. I enjoy that idea of people coming at it from a, hey, like, we've gone through similar stuff and we're still together and we're still in love. But it's a very fine line from just kind of wanting to like put yourself and your relationship out there to help people and putting it on blast all the time, making it a core part of your business to sell more to your audience. That's why I think they made it such a big part of the Hollis company, because they knew the audience that they were appealing to. They knew that Rachel's demographic, a lot of it is young moms, young wives. If they can look at Rachel and see she's really great in business, but maybe her marriage isn't the greatest, or maybe she's a single mom, maybe she's divorced, like whatever it may be, then they're only gonna want to look at her for the business stuff. If she's great in business, but her personal life doesn't look like what they want, they're just gonna look at her for business. But if Rachel can come on and do business, lifestyle, marriage, kids, parenting, working out, like everything, if Rachel can make every single part of her life look like something you want, they're going to come to you. They're going to buy from you. They are going to do everything they can and consume all of the content that they can from you because they think that you have it figured out. They think that you are perfect. You are selling them this whole package that does not exist. It's not real. It is fake. And I think that that is so often the case when people put their relationship out there like that. They have something to prove, whether it's to themselves, to their friends, to their family, whoever it may be. They create this fake fantasy marriage, this fairy tale thing, when they know that things are crumbling behind the scenes. And usually it is pretty obvious to spot. And in my opinion, I always was like, I don't really buy this. I don't want marriage advice from you. I just don't. I don't think a lot of people saw it that way. I think they did. Essentially, they must have done a good job of making it look genuine to other people because so many people were surprised and devastated. Some weren't because they were like, we could have seen that coming when Dave came on as CEO. Because, mixing business and personal relationship isn't always great. But a lot of people were devastated. Enough ranting. Let's finally get to the point. On June 8th, Rachel posted a picture of her and Dave, and she captioned it, "Guys, I have some hard news to share, and the honest truth is I have no idea how someone announces something like this, so I'm just going to say it. Dave and I have made the incredibly difficult decision to end our marriage. We started out as best friends 18 years ago, and the truth is that core friendship and the parts of us that work so well have become a band-aid for the parts of us that don't. We have worked endlessly over the last 3 years to make this work, and have come to the conclusion that it is healthier and more respectful for us to choose this as the end of our journey as a married couple. We remain dear friends as we raise our family and co-parents and run our company as partners. We are choosing joy, even though, I'll be honest, the last month has been one of the most awful of our lives. I want to be strong and bold and optimistic for you now, but every ounce of my energy is reserved in being those things for my children. That said, having been such an open book to this beloved community, we hope that you can allow us a human moment. We hope you can understand our need to process these changes away from social media. We graciously ask that you respect our privacy so we can focus on what matters most, our 4 kids, and the next chapter of what our family looks like now." And I will put this kind of side note out there now. The picture that she used for the divorce announcement is literally the same picture that she posted back on April 30th. And the caption was, "Today on the podcast, Mr. Dave Hollis and I are talking about how quarantine has affected our makeout sessions. Yes, we went there. If you're in a relationship, the Rise Together podcast is just for you. Listen anywhere you get your pods." So that's just like a sad little fun fact. But back to the point, did you hear? 3 years? And I get it. Marriage is hard sometimes, and like working through conflict can be very complicated. It can be messy. It can take time. But 3 years, 3 years to work on something is not just like one little thing. That is a big thing. Having a marriage that you are not happy in, that you are struggling to work through, all while selling your audience the package of a perfect marriage, is so fraudulent. And I get it. They do the human relatable thing of like, we're not perfect. Like, we go through hard times. But really, overall, they present their marriage as something that you should aspire to achieve. They say, like, look at our marriage as an example of what a successful marriage looks like. They may have never said perfect, but you know how it's viewed by your audience, even if you've never said it was perfect. It's just fraudulent. It's so infuriating because you can have problems. Marriage isn't great all the time. Like, you're gonna fight, you're gonna go through rough patches. It's whatever. You can have those problems and still be able to give good advice about conflict resolution, about parenting together, about making family decisions, about going on date nights. Like, I think that you can present some really solid tactics for having a healthy romantic relationship. But the thing is, her audience didn't subscribe to this podcast and didn't start idolizing their marriage because they were seeking out experts. They subscribed to the podcast and got invested in the marriage because they already liked Rachel. And because Rachel and Dave presented themselves as having this marriage, this picture-perfect marriage that you get, that you can attain. Like, this type of thing can be yours if you follow all of the Rachel Hollis hype. This is part of what you can expect your life to look at if you take her advice, if you buy her books, if you come to the Rise conference, if you listen to the podcast. It's part of this whole package of being like Rachel Hollis, of being a boss babe. Not about going to a therapist or a counselor to say, hey, we would like some expert advice. It's not about that. It's about living the picture perfect life. And it literally just kills me that it was fake. It wasn't real. And of course, I don't know what their day-to-day lives looked like, how much they loved each other, how they got along. I don't know. But my perception of the situation is it was fake. You've been fighting for 3 years to save your marriage. And yeah, this is the first time that so many people have heard about it. It doesn't sit well with me. Show-offy marriages don't sit well with me. Maybe it's a hint at like a bigger problem, and maybe you shouldn't present it as perfect as you are when you're literally fighting to save your marriage, in the words of Rachel, even though you know your audience has no idea of that, and your audience thinks that if they follow you and they listen to what you have to say, they could have a life like yours, when you know that it's fake. I told you I ranted about her for so long in the last video, and I know that this is long, but stay with me, we're almost done. So about 2 weeks ago, Dave posted a picture of him and Rachel on his Instagram. And the caption said, I put this picture up on our anniversary in May, then took it down 2 days later. It was our 16th, a year from this shot renewing our vows. Married a 4th time after ceremonies every 5 years. One of my best days ever. 2 days later, Ray told me she didn't want to be married anymore. 2 days later, Ray told me she did not want to be married anymore. That I could only become the man and she the woman we were each truly meant to be apart. So the post with memories we'd make left me embarrassed for a vision of a future that wasn't shared. I'll always love her, cheer for her, and now pray every single day that she's right, becoming something even greater, even if it's so sad. After she told me it was clear this decision was made, that the 1,000 little things that led here left continuing to fight for marriage a thing we didn't both want. We didn't both want. Not we both didn't want. It's that we didn't both want. And I did what I'd done. I broke the more than a year run of not grabbing a bottle when things got hard, and I drank to cope. 2 sad days of numbing pain in a dark room alone, making me feel even worse, not who I want to be. All the work and pride out for not wanting to deal with hard things. On the 3rd day, I had to have one of those tough times in the mirror, asking who I wanted to be, how I wanted to process hard things. Do I want to make them harder or grow? I turned to God again every day, all day. I turned to running 250 miles in 8 weeks, to therapy, writing, focusing on my kids, friends, sobriety, and health. In my running, I've been listening to sermons. Recently, a message from Stephen Furtick where he was talking about storms. It's not the first storm that gets people. It's the secondary storm that people create that takes them down. The way we react to a storm we didn't see coming that leads to our demise. We are all working through a storm. You likely didn't choose it, but your decision to how you handle it determines how you'll weather it. There's a parable in the Bible about 2 houses, one built on sand, the other on rock. They both face the same storm, and the first one is destroyed while the other stands strong. Your foundation determines your outcome. Like me, it may be faith, kids, a routine, and health since that mere moment. You choose wisely. That caption, what he's saying in it, it makes it seem like he wasn't as set in wanting the marriage to end. Maybe it's because he really loves her, he really wants to be with her. He's like, God, like, you're the best thing in my life. I don't want to lose you. But maybe it's because he was the breadwinner for a long time, and he essentially provided the foundation that Rachel built her business off of. Yeah, she was making money blogging before. Like, she had a party planning company in the past. So, you know, it's not that she was like not doing anything for forever, but the entire time of their marriage, Dave was probably feeling like, I'm really providing a lot for this family. I'm the one going to work every day. I'm letting Rachel follow her passion. Like, I love her, I love her. I'm sorry, I'm sure he loved her. I'm sure he did in his own way. But like, I'm going out, I'm doing the working, and she gets to follow her passion, and that's fine. But now she's blown up. And I've put in all these years of providing a 6-figure, maybe 7-figure salary that essentially allowed her to do this. I paid for the vacation we were on when she took the beach photo. Like, maybe he's getting some of that in his head. And I don't think that's the healthiest way to think. It's not like you should look at your wife who's following her passion and have some resentment, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was there. So in his head, he thinks he's put in all of this work for the past 14, 15 years. And now, in the past 2 years, past 3-ish years, she's blown up, and you are reaping the benefits of that. Having this whole image of your life that is put together in a really good way, it increases the revenue that you can get if people want their whole lives to be like yours instead of just this one part. So maybe in his head, he's like, we just got this going, like, we can make so much money staying together. We're finally breaking the cap on what maybe I would have been limited to if I was still working for somebody else. And now it's falling apart. Now, 2-3 years after you've blown up, that's when it's falling apart. I'm sure that this is a whole thing for both of them to process. Nobody ever wants to go into a marriage with the idea that they're gonna get divorced. Divorce happens, like, it just does. But I don't ever think that this is what somebody wants at the start of their marriage. So I'm sure it is hard. A big part of his identity is probably rooted in who Rachel is because he's part of the Hollis company. And so they each obviously have a right to grieve and to be sad for whatever reason it is. But here's where we are crossing a line for me. Putting aside the fact that they shared a false image of their relationship with their audience, putting aside the fact that they used this false image for financial gain, putting aside the fact of all of the confusing things they put out about their marriage, the passive aggressiveness, the risky decision of integrating their personal life with their business life, despite all of these things that I don't find good or positive, they are going through a divorce, and maybe they really truly did love each other and they enjoyed spending time together, and whether it was Rachel's decision or they agreed on it together, in my head, after hearing the divorce, I was a little bit angry, but I was like, man, that sucks. Like, that's really not a fun thing to be going through, so that really sucks, and like, I hope that they can both work through it and come out on the other side healthier and, in Rachel's words, like the version of each of them that they're supposed to be. However, Rachel, in my opinion, has crossed a massive line. And this, very specifically, is where I was like, okay, I've got some strong opinions. Let's talk about it. And to me, this is something that, in my personal opinion, with my personal life, not that I will never forgive her for, but this is like the straw that broke the camel's back. There is no redemption for her in my eyes because of this. For me, I will never support her. I will never buy from her. I will never use her app. I will never go to a conference. All that stuff in the past, I was like, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. Like, I don't like this, but it was never I dislike you as a person. It's just, I don't like what you're doing. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not going to support it. And now it's like, this is the final thing. This is the final straw. I'm going to stop grandstanding. On July 27th, 2020, a month and a half-ish after she announced her divorce, Rachel announced her new book titled Didn't See That Coming. And here's the caption. This morning, my friends at Good Morning America made a big announcement for me, the cover of my next book. Here's an excerpt. I set out to write this book because I have survived crisis and grief many times, and I believed I might have something to share that could help others walk through it. I wrote the first draft as a sort of Sherpa, believing I could help guide you over the mountain of grief. Now I find myself back inside grief and editing from an entirely different perspective than the one from which I wrote. I'm no longer a Sherpa leading from the front. Now I'm also trudging through it with you, which means this book has the unique duality of being a creation both outside and inside of pain. As someone who lives by a plan, who has imagined in detail the next 2 decades of my life and how they might play out, I can honestly tell you I never planned for the end of my marriage, even though for 3 years they were struggling. Sorry, that was mean, but I mean, I gotta call it like I see it. Honestly, the fact that I didn't see this or plan for it makes me feel like an idiot. I will add a bit more honesty and tell you something in confidence. I considered pushing this book away or scrapping the idea altogether. I didn't think I was ready. I wasn't sure I'd ever be ready. I questioned whether I could teach and learn at the same time because the lesson, this work, feels like the hardest I've ever done. Even though the words were written, even though I believed they could be helpful to someone, I knew it was impossible to keep this book in its original form without acknowledging the fresh destruction I find myself in. And the idea of writing about something so new goes against everything I have believed about my work. There's an old expression that says we should teach or write or share only from our scars, never our wounds, and I have lived by it, meaning I have been intentional about never processing the hard parts of life with you, but instead have only ever shared what has been effective for me after I've done the work. But here we are. Everything feels fragile and scrubbed raw. Everything feels unreal and uncertain. Everything feels absent of all that matters and simultaneously too big to carry. Didn't See That Coming is out September 29th. In summary, this is gross. This is wrong. This is disrespectful to her nearly 20-year marriage. This is disrespectful to her fans. This is disrespectful to Dave. This is wrong. This is not okay. From Dave's post, we know that it was in May that Rachel told him, according to him, that she wanted the divorce. So the fact that she's including some passages about the divorce in this book tells us that she was either writing them before she told Dave that they were done, or whatever she's added, whatever she has written and decided to include is just emotionally irresponsible scrambling to get it in before the release in September. And the reason I say that it's irresponsible is because whenever you are writing from a place of high emotion, whenever you're communicating from that place and you haven't taken the time to fully process, sometimes you can say things that are hurtful or untrue or damaging and not even really mean to. And the thing is, I don't think Rachel wants to intentionally hurt any of her subscribers or any of the people who follow her, but I feel like there's a high probability of that happening if this stuff was written from as real and raw of a place as she says it was. And in my opinion, it seems really scummy to suddenly add this to your book, whether you've been writing it for months in secret and hiding it from Dave, or whether you just, after you told him in May, pumped this content out, whatever the case may be, this is so sleazy. It's so scummy because Rachel knows people want to hear about the divorce. People want to know what happened. So it looks like she's using this and including the fact that it's so emotional, so raw. She's uncertain. This feels crazy. She's never experienced this and she's not healed yet. She's using this angle as bait for people to buy the book. So that way she can become a New York Times bestselling author yet again. And of course it's gonna work. As humans, we love gossip. We love hearing the nitty-gritty details of horrible things that are happening in other people's lives. We love the shock. We love the outrage. We love it. We do. And Rachel knows this. She knows that people want to hear about it. And so they're gonna buy the book. And really, I feel like this is just another example that shows there is no integrity in her work. She doesn't care about the integrity. She'll plagiarize if she wants, she'll recycle old material if she wants, and she will throw away a book that supposedly was completely written and just going through the editing stage in order to sell more. If I had been working on something that I felt was really important and could really help a lot of people, I would not suddenly go through and change a large portion of it 4 months before the release date. Like, it's coming out in September. She told him about the divorce in May. I would not scramble to do that. I think, with this new trauma, with this fresh thing happening, she could have scrapped and rewritten the entire book completely after processing if she felt that some parts were no longer relevant or needed certain things added. This is a massive change. This is a very big topic. And so if some of the things that she put in her book were no longer relevant based on new experiences, she could have scrapped the whole thing and just reworked it and taken her time to do that. Or if she felt like the information in that book was still good and true and helpful, she could have released it as is, because she said, like, this is to help people, this is important for people, I'm leading you through grief. Like, she could have left it as it was and then written a separate book about the divorce after she had processed everything. You don't just decide to end a relationship that you have been in for the majority of your adult life and feel okay 4 months later. Even if there were problems, even if you stopped loving that person, even if you didn't want to be with them and you knew that, you don't recover from it that quickly. But honestly, I think she's just banking on the subscriber base that she has now. She knows that this is kind of like the highest her popularity has ever been, and people will want to hear about like this fresh wound and get the tea. And she also probably knows that she might lose a good amount of subscribers from this, from what comes after this, because it's no longer the whole package, and a lot of people feel lied to. I have seen a lot of comments from people being like, wow, like my husband and I listen to your Rise Together podcast every week. We've taken the advice from it. We look up to you as a couple. And essentially it feels like this was all a lie because you said for the past 3 years you've been trying to save the marriage. People are calling her out, and rightfully so. And I think she knows that she might lose a good amount of subscribers in the coming months and followers, depending on how things go and how things end up working out with her and Dave still being business partners and co-parents, but not being together romantically. And also, she's banking on the freshness of the news because, in my opinion, people really want to hear about it now because it is so fresh. It's something that's happening right now. And so people are more invested. Whereas if she put a book out in a year, people will probably have moved on and they really won't care about it as much. So in conclusion, everything I have ever questioned about Rachel Hollis has culminated to this very point with this one example of her ham-fisting a hot topic into a book about something as serious as grief for the reason of, in my opinion, boosting her book sales. In the end, I feel like my initial hesitancy towards her was warranted. I feel like it was legitimate, and I kind of wish I'd talked about her a little bit sooner, just to have another voice out there of saying like, hey, you don't have to believe everything you see. You can question people. You can like one part of someone's life and not have to subscribe to every element of it. You can be successful without being exactly like Rachel Hollis, and maybe that would have helped people decide for themselves what success means, or decide for themselves what a healthy marriage is, or healthy parenting habits, or whatever. They could say, oh, well, I'll listen to this, and if there are some good tips, I'll take them from her podcast, but she is not the end-all be-all of everything, and if I'm not exactly like her, it's fine. Now that we've gone through all that, I do want to know what your opinion is on Rachel Hollis. Did you know who she was before you saw this video? And if so, what's your opinion of her? Has it changed in light of recent events? And additionally, do you think that it's okay that she's including these parts about her recent divorce in the book? Obviously, I don't. I think it's wrong, but I'm not like gonna shut down anybody's opinion if they see things differently. I know I got very heated, very amped, but I am open to hearing your thoughts and hearing your opinions. Like, I'm not gonna be like, you disagree with me, I don't like that, you know? You guys know, I'm open to it. I'm open to hearing what you have to say. So even if you disagree with me, even if you see things differently, I still would love to hear your opinion. I love hearing different perspectives and hearing the different ways one particular situation can be perceived. So definitely feel free to leave it in the comments down below. While you're doing that, if you would consider liking this video or subscribing to my channel, that would be incredible. With all that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and let you go. If you're subscribed already, thank you so much. I am so appreciative of you. Thank you for watching. Please be kind to people, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.